Hi, everybody. This is Cameron. We are doing another episode of Dungeons and Dialogues. Today, I am with my friends, the Unbroken of Falcon's Lodge. We recently finished Dragon of Icespire Peak, and we figured we'd spend a little time talking about it and answering some of your questions. Plus, I did commit a kidnapping and a ransom to get them all here. There is a picture that I'm going to share with them during this conversation. But let's go around and introduce everyone. I've been DMing for like at least 4 years now. And that's about it. Hannah, what was your experience with D&D, TTRPGs in general before we started this? Which, for context, I think we went for 2 years, 2 years, 1.5 years.
About a year and a half, yeah.
Year
We
and a half,
started
yeah.
in like right at the beginning of 2023, like January 2023.
And we finished a month ago for
January.
context.
Yep.
It was January 12th, 2023.
January 12th, 20, yeah, so almost exactly 18 months. But yeah, Hannah, before we did this, what's been your D&D TTRPG experience?
Well, I've really only played Dungeons and Dragons with you, and our friends. Pretty much, you just asked me to join and play until I broke down, and I said yes to one of the events. Yeah. So, now you and I are doing a campaign together. But then you said you wanted to do one with, well, this is going to be mean, with people that I, like, actually wanted to play with. That was genuinely a fun playing with. So I said, sure. So he got this fun little group together, and that's where we're at.
That's very true and very fair. Anna, what about you?
Yeah, so before doing this campaign, I think my TTRPG experience was a little bit on the more limited side. I had done the beginner's campaign, Lost Minds of Phandelver. I had finished that one. We started this campaign like a month after I finished that one. And before that, I had tried to do a campaign that was, not with Arbitrary Heroes. It was an in-person thing. It fizzled out after about 6 months. There was just like not coordinated schedules. It wasn't happening, so that just sort of fell apart. But yeah, I think this is the longest campaign that I've finished so far, and it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, yes. Love to hear it. Sabrina, how about yourself?
This is the first time I've ever actually like participated in and finished a campaign. I've been trying to finish and like actually play a game since college, and that was 8 or 9 years ago. So like, yeah. So like, I knew elements of the game. I don't really know much about Faerun lore, but like I knew like mechanics and shit like that before I got in. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, it was my first campaign.
And we did finish it. We are the finishists. L, what about you? I think you might have had the most experience out of any of us.
Probably. I've been wanting to play for years, but I never actually got the chance until COVID, because I actually had the time, and through Discord and everything, playing online was so much easier. So I've been playing regularly for 3 years now. I think I started in 2021 in the fall, so almost 3 years.
Nice.
And yeah, that is yeah, I play in real life, and also online with you guys. And yeah, so this is the second campaign I've finished, but I am a part of 3 others right now.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Churning through them. I dig it. That's a lot of
Play
adventuring.
3 times a week.
That's commitment.
Awesome. And then last but never least, Hen, what about yourself?
I had some exposure to D&D prior to this. I would oftentimes help game masters and dungeon masters kind of like fill out backstories or help them create non-playable characters. So I had that exposure to like the narrative part of the world, but it was very limited. And then I always wanted to get into it, but I felt that I was too old and people would make fun of me if I tried to get into it. And then COVID happened, and we all had a heck of a lot more time on our hands. And I, because I'm an old lady, went through Facebook and joined a local D&D, like find a group, Facebook group, and had one failed game because scheduling conflicts. And then I got a DM from this random dude named Cameron with an invite
right.
to a Discord, and I was like, "Oh, this is a scam. If I click that, I'm gonna lose all of my information." But instead, I found Arbitrary Hero and played in a few one-shots with a couple of different DMs. But I feel like Cameron and I have very similar senses of humor at times, so he tends to be my favorite. Don't tell him that.
I won't let it get to my head.
Hannah, yeah, no. But Hannah and I were already good friends, and I feel like I've found some pretty great ladies to play with and share my time with as well.
Yeah, I think everyone except Sabrina I played with in a one-shot before this adventure. Like Anna, Elle, and Hen, I think at different times you all did the Domains of Dread with me once or twice.
Mm-hmm.
Sabrina, I think did we meet on Facebook? Or maybe it was Reddit.
I think I was in like Ohio something or another and was asking around, and then I had a couple people DM me, and then somebody respond to the post, and
I absolutely
I
troll
totally
for
forgot
new
how
blood.
I got an Arbitrary Hero.
Speaking
of which, to totally derail everything, my boyfriend is possibly interested in hopping on as well, if it's acceptable.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, join him. Send him.
He likes his current group, but he wants more people he can actually role play with and like have a little more flexibility with play. His friend's homebrewing right now, so.
Yeah. Send him a Discord invite.
I'll let him know.
Yeah. So, we could do a couple things. Do we want to talk? I think the next thing we want to talk about is the characters. Do you want now to be the picture reveal?
Ooh,
We've already been waiting for so long.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I'm ready.
It's a pretty big file. I'm gonna drop it in the Discord channel so you can download it and open it. And then I'll put it up on the screen, and we'll use that as a chance to go through our characters as well. All right, sending that. It is up. I'm actually going to shrink it down so everyone can see the full picture on this screen.
167 megabytes? Jesus.
I'm opening it on my own computer.
It is big resolution.
Oh my gosh, this looks awesome.
Oh my god.
Okay, so first things first. Big shout out. This was Agus Zabrowska art. AGUSZEBROWSKA art on Etsy. There's an artist that I really, really love her work called Tessie Dreamdrawer. She has been on maternity leave, so she wasn't able to do this one. But now I think I have two favorite artists, because Tessie and Agus Zabrowska art. I mean, this is incredible. This is really, really wonderful.
So cool.
Yeah, let's walk through. Hannah, who is your character, and tell us about them.
So my character was Bayax. He's the dragon, the only dragon-looking guy.
The Dragonborn, the red Dragonborn.
The red Dragonborn. And I just kind of wanted to play a big dumb lug, and that's really what he is. He's a failed glass blower. He tried to make glass and it would break or it would melt every time because he's a dragonborn. And so then he went on this little adventure to make a little money and make some friends. And now he's taking baking lessons, I think from the guy behind the bar.
That is, in fact, yes, that is, God, I keep wanting to call him Toblerone. That is not his name. Toblin Stonehill,
I think it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's Dublin.
our friendly bisexual innkeeper. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the way Aegis normally does it is they do, like, when you do a team commission, they have a budget for the DM to self-insert them into this, but I don't like that shit. So I was like, yeah, let's do a famous, like, let's do an NPC that's relevant to the setting. Then and Bayax, I believe the Dark Horse is yours. We originally talked about doing Courser, the
right.
skeleton
Yeah.
horse. Courser, obviously, rest in peace.
Yeah.
So that is Frankie the
R.I.P.
mayor instead.
Okay.
Anna, what about your player character?
Yeah, so I played human fighter Carson Alexander. My idea going into this campaign and making Carson was, in the past I had tried to do characters that had like a ton of backstory I would hope to incorporate into the campaign, just like make them like super complex, have a lot of fun writing it, and then when it got to actually playing the campaign, I was like, oh, I've pigeonholed myself into something that I don't actually enjoy anymore. So for this campaign, I want to do the stereotypical thing of playing human fighter because everyone has to do it. And two, just write something that was like really bare bones and let the story kind of fill in more of the relevant details and let, more emergent storytelling happen. And this was a great experience because I learned that that's how I prefer to play games now, is like I don't want to, like, I know a lot of people like to write really complex characters and have a lot of backstory, and that's like totally valid and great for people that can do that. I'm not great at playing a character that I've written that way. So yeah, Carson, I made him a local adventurer of Phandalin. And when the townmaster Harbin Wester started retreating, into solitude after the sighting of a dragon, of course Carson would want to help out because, that's help thy neighbor. He's very, committed to helping those that he cares about, but also not super trusting of those that he doesn't. So he was wary joining up with a bunch of people who had come into town for their own various reasons, but soon definitely came to deeply care about all of them.
Yeah, it was a cool journey to watch Carson, and then Carson was the first, like you ended up going down the Cavalier track, because you got Bailey. I'd say like not super early in the adventure, but after a little while in
Somewhere
the
around
adventure.
like halfway.
Yeah.
And that's the funny part is I actually Carson's a battle master fighter, not a
Oh.
cavalier, which is hilarious because it would make a lot more sense for him to be a cavalier. But yeah, I just honestly
so
the
it
whole
was
part.
after level 3, so you picked your
Yeah.
subclass and then you got Bailey. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
I didn't remember that. That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, that was just sort of having fun with like my own personal life tie-in because in real life I'm a horseback rider and I was just like, oh, let's pull some horses into my D&D experience because having a little bit of self-insert is sort of one way to have fun with it. Also, just because I wanted the excuse to use the mountain combatant feat. Like it was 50-50 with those two reasons combined together. Let's buy a horse, and it ended up being a really fun narrative addition to the campaign of like having a horse that Carson cared about and wanted to protect for the latter half of the campaign.
Yeah, it also gave me some threads to pull on as a DM. Things for me to be able to threaten are really good. Sabrina, what about your PC?
I was Chryslin. I'm the very hot, beautiful tiefling in the back there. I was a bard, which kind of ties in. I play music in real life too, not as much as I used to, but I have a couple violins in my other room. Yeah, with Chryslin, I knew I wanted to be a tiefling at the very least because I have an unholy love for tieflings as a race. And then I thought Bard would just be fun. I knew from other like gaming I do. I like to do support typically. I like to be away from most things and then just come in and throw shit at everybody and then back out. So I figured Bard would be good for that. And then as for the character, I went to Cameron with a very last minute, vague as hell trope and just played it from there. I wanted her to be like a really I did want her to be a trope. I wanted her to be a tropey bard. I wanted her to be sexy. I wanted her to be charismatic. I wanted her to be friendly. And I'd like to say I did that fairly faithfully. I had a BFF in the campaign, but she had to go die in a cave.
We'll talk about that.
Tragedy, really. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun. Bard was challenging because like you're squishy as hell.
And there's a lot going on with your like spells and features and stuff.
Yeah, and like you were cool as a DM in that you really rewarded me and let me know when I was thinking creatively on how to be a utility character. So that really made me feel like, oh, okay, this is what I'm best at playing at. I will probably keep playing with this one. So I appreciated that from you a lot.
Yeah, and
I think I kept count. I got like 5 inspirations from you from the whole campaign.
I
some
definitely
of them for more what like I thought was absolutely stupid stuff, like the wand with the end kegs. I thought that.
I thought that was great.
Giving me that? Why?
That was amazing.
I think it's something we'll talk later on about it, but that was the inspiration was something I was trying to be more proactive about because I definitely know when I first started DMing, I kind of kept forgetting about the inspiration mechanic, but it is a lot of fun to say, "Hey, good job."
That really like plays with that.
Yeah. Next we do have Elle. What about Diana / Helena?
Helena is not based on me in real life because I'm not a thief. But Helena was actually a Adventures League character that I played. The first time I played her, she was level 15.
Oh.
I played her in a one-shot, and I wanted to play her origin story.
That's cool.
So she's a human rogue, part of the Shadow Thieves, so a career criminal and spy. And she started as a random character that I played for a one-shot that I really enjoyed playing. One of the first one-shots I actually played was her. And I just wanted to, see where she started and how she ended up. So her actual name is Helena Guthrum, but she is also known as Diana Sorum, which is her cover name. So she's been a lot of fun. She's a secretive little one.
I dig it.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then second to last and last, we have Hen. Which of your characters, do you want to go in chronological order here?
Probably. That might be the most helpful. So Cameron likes to kill me. I think that's his self-insert.
Unsubstantiated rumor.
To be fair, that was kind of on you, my friend.
Look, I've had this argument with Cameron so many times.
By myself.
Look, we're not going to talk about that right now. This episode needs to not be a year long. But yes, Mena Shadowspell was an orphan turned assassin. She was adopted by the Red Sisters, who were a dying sect of the cult from Waterdeep, who were pretty much just trying to be greedy and exploitative with their power. So they took young, unassuming people and fed them and clothed them and then manipulated them into learning some pretty unsavory practices. Mena's mother was killed, And she was one of the librarians of Waterdeep. And so Mina was kind of just this wild child running free in the library. So her emphasis was very so much on like arcane knowledge and history knowledge. She was very learned, and she had her own secrets. She was not supposed to leave the Red Sisters, but she took an opportunity as it presented itself and decided to join up with a random band of adventurers because that seems the least likely thing for her to do. And her curiosity maybe got the better of her. And in an attempt to circumvent some shisty were-rats, she got. And she died.
Yeah, so she was a halfling. Your next
Oh, yeah.
character was related, was
Yeah.
from the same order, not biological sisters, but
Yes.
sorry,
Mina was a
societal.
Lightfoot halfling rogue,
Yeah,
with an emphasis in thievery and stealth. Rosalia Shadowspell, just because all of the girls get the same last name when they're essentially abducted. Content warning. She was tasked to go and hunt down her sister by the Red Sisters, but they were also very close, so it didn't really take much convincing. And unfortunately, she arrived the day that Mena died. And she did ask for everything but her dagger back, which Diana came into ownership of after her death. And I do believe that is actually how the group found out that Mena had died, was
Oh yeah.
yeah.
this dagger
Yeah.
was very
Yeah.
important and it got left behind. But yeah, Rosalia is a human wizard. She the Red Sisters
Bladesinger.
found that she had a Bladesinger wizard as well. They found she had a talent and forced her to use it for something other than what she probably would have picked for herself. And she wanted to know more about these people that her sister had run away with and what she was doing at the end of her life, because the group didn't really seem to know too much about why she was there, what she was doing prior, and kind of continued on in her name because they were committed to doing this quest, and kind of still sits at the sidelines, but is by the end had slowly started warming up to this merry band of buffoons that she'd found herself immersed in.
Yes. Yeah, and I'll say as a DM, I think it's been a really fun mix of characters. Kind of Anna pointed this out. Everyone plays a little differently. Everyone has a different approach to like what they want from their character. But it's been a lot of fun to see the characters change and grow. And yeah, so this is my tradition: is when I finish a campaign, I commission a piece to celebrate, and I think this was a wonderful commission for a wonderful campaign. I am curious. We talked about our characters. Did especially Anna's remark about kind of pre-planning versus letting the story speak. Did anyone's view of your player character change significantly over the course of the campaign? Did role playing and adventuring say, oh, like I realize like this, I think about this a little differently now, or did you feel like the adventure we played kind of reinforced the image you had of your character?
I think it was really hard to come up with a brand new character on the fly. Because I build characters very similarly to how Anna previously built theirs. I dive into their personality a lot, just because otherwise I'll just basically end up playing a version of myself if I don't have morals and values and judgments and past experiences to draw upon. Just because I find it very hard to put myself in another person's shoes as easily, without really knowing where their core motivations would lie. And so I make really, really deep, not necessarily like, I don't really make backstories. I mostly just flesh out their personalities. And not having the opportunity to do that, really left me feeling lost and disconnected from Rosalia most of the time. And it took me about 6 months playing her to really
Get a feel for
get a handle
who
on
she
her.
was.
And then the campaign ended.
Yeah.
But we're playing more.
Yeah.
I know.
I will say you did a very good job of. So if anyone's seen the movie Beer Fest, one of the major characters in that movie dies, and then his brother, who is played by the same actor, comes back, and they absolutely make a line in the movie that's like, "It's like you never left." I think you did a great job of Maina and Rosalia did, to me, like they felt different. They acted different, even though they were from the same organization. And while one was a thief and one was a wizard, they were both kind of doing that sneaky shenanigans stuff. They did feel unique. So I think you did a great job there. Props.
Oh yeah, because like for my character, for Crystalline, like Maina and Crystalline were like buddies. Like we were partners in fucking people over. Like it was a grand old time. And then when Rosalia, like me and Rosalia did not, we were not friends. I don't think. Like we were companions. We were not friends. In any way,
we're
shape,
not
or
bunking
form.
next
So,
to
like,
each other in the
she
middle
did a good
of
job
the
of
night.
differentiating. No, because I was tossing gold. I was tossing gold at Maina to go pants people in the square, and then write songs making fun about them.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, no, she did a good job with that.
For me, it was very much of the. I always start with the backstory, and I build my character from there. I build their personality from there, and then they sometimes completely shift when I roleplay them. Helena or Diana pretty much stayed the same way I had envisioned her. But I think what surprised me most about her was how much she came to adore this group, because she's very much of a neutral character who's very much like, there's so much stuff going on in my life and with my secret identities that I have to be careful, but she just opened up more than I expected her to. But that also came very naturally through the story, since a part of her background was a pretty big part of the story, I would say.
Yeah. I did try, and for those of you that did have like factions and organizations in the background, I tried to add them into the adventure where it made natural sense. Some of it probably won't even really come to fruition until we do like the sequel stuff. But I'm glad that felt like it made a big impact. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about, I'm gonna put up. We did a map. Basically, I try to keep track on the map of that they give us for the box set, your adventures as you went through them. And one of the things I really like about this adventure, I guess, talk about just the overall structure. It's a pretty open sandbox. It takes place at the same location as Lost Mines of Phandelver, which I believe Anna is the only one that's played before.
I think Els played that as well.
Okay, yeah. You two have. I haven't actually like even really read through that one. I know it exists, but I haven't run it or read through it. But whereas from what I understand, Lost Mines of Phandelver is a little more linear. Like there is an overall main story beat and chapters that you're going through. Dragon of Icespire Peak is absolutely like a big sandbox. It doesn't do a good job conveying that starting out, but essentially you start in Phandalin and you get 3 quests. After you beat 2 of them, you get 6 more quests. And it's basically just the whole point is get strong enough to take down Cryovane, this young white dragon that is moving around and preying on the people in the area. There's some very loose story with this cult of Talos, but it's really up to the DM to like make things narratively satisfying. And I can recognize where for someone brand new that might be hard, but I think it encourages certain good behavior from a DM, which is like create scenarios, don't create plots, that sort of thing to help the players do the story. So you all like you did a certain path that I think was basically like based on geography. You were like, okay, we're just gonna hit the closest stuff first, come back to town, turn it in, and eventually you did. Once you got strong enough, you were like, okay, we're gonna do like a big circuit through the northern region where you really delved into like the orc cults of Talos and stuff. I was curious. I've got a list of questions here just about the campaign itself. Did anyone have a particular like NPC or character that you met on the journey that you really just liked, you thought was silly, resonated with, whatever? Did anyone have like a favorite?
The cow.
The cow? Oh,
Vincent.
Vincent.
That's
he was
right.
he was kind of your all's like mascot starting out.
Yeah. I
Vince-
flipped our bit with the cow.
Yeah, Vincent was adorable.
That was pretty good.
Leonardo da Vinci was probably my particular favorite.
Big
Um,
shocker there.
Yeah. But yeah, Vincent.
Oh, Vincent.
Oh, adorable.
It's a
Yeah.
piggy bank.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cute. Yeah, Vincent the Ox was great. What about throughout the adventure a favorite encounter? Was there a particular like role play event, combat, puzzle, whatever that like really stuck out in your brain?
I think the first time we fought the Thunderboar, and we
I was
like
gonna say the same
basically
thing.
got our teeth kicked in.
Oh, not the Thunderboard demigod, but like one of the cultists of Talos that was like
Yeah.
a boar and kind of I
Yeah.
think almost killed Sabrina, almost killed Chrysaline, right?
Yeah.
I think it almost killed
Many
all of us.
times. It's a
pretty
group
close.
meme at this point about me and the Thunder Pig. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
They're
In fact,
essentially
that was what I was going to say. It's not my favorite, but the Thunder Pig is essentially a meme.
sticks
in my
out in
life
your brain.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It so for context, so there are these the Cryovane is displacing all these people that live in the mountains, and there's different orc tribes, and some of them you made friends with, but there's this group that are cultists dedicated to the god Talos of storms and chaos and destruction. They're trying to essentially take over the area, so you have repeated run-ins with them. And the first time you met one of them was, I think it was on this journey north from, if you're on the map, from Phandalin to the loggers camp. It was just like a random encounter that was in the forest. And
Yeah.
I pointed out the boar.
Yeah.
I think Bayax tried to like throw a spear at it. And then, because they are an anchorite of Talos, it's a half-orc that is wild-shaped as a boar, and they threw back a lightning bolt at the party, and that was very fun for me. Yes, that was a really good one. Any
'cause
others?
I don't think we didn't know any of that at the time.
Correct.
So we thought we were just like, oh, this will be fairly easy. We're just gonna,
Grab some dinner.
grab some dinner, yeah. And
Yeah.
then it kicked our ass.
It grabbed us.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was a really fun moment, like as for us as players, because we're just like, okay, this boar is gonna destroy camp. It's gonna be destructive because boars are big, nasty brutes. And so we're just kind of like, okay, someone killed the boar, we can eat it. And then Cameron like giggles, and all of us paused for a second.
Right.
And then he was like, yeah, so Kristen's gonna get hit with a lightning bolt. And all of us were like, what? Excuse me.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
I almost walked away because I'm like, bro, I didn't even want anything to do with this one.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun introduction for a faction that you kind of ran into repeatedly afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. That was honestly, that was hilarious because at the time we were just like, okay, a pig that shoots lightning bolts,
Yeah.
that's normal. That's something that happened.
Okay. It's okay. I got to touch the butt, so it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It was very
Uh,
helpful.
What about?
Also,
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
who was it? It wasn't Tybor, but the one that kept trying to like flirt with Grislin.
So
Oh yeah, that was Toblin.
Toblin's the
That was
flirty
Yeah, that was the innkeeper.
innkeeper,
Yeah.
but are you talking about
Because he made me cake.
the one you
Yes.
the Tybor's brother at the logger camp, the one you all hate? For
Yes.
for
Oh yeah.
Oh, the one I was bullying.
out of character
Yes.
for no good reason. But yeah, so
No
you,
good reason, my ass.
you get to this logger camp. All the loggers are dead. The cultists had planted this effigy in the camp, which was summoning ankegs, these like giant cockroach monsters. And they had slaughtered all the other loggers. No, you're right. Tybor Wester was the brother. Harbin
Yeah.
is the town master. Tybor was the brother.
Yeah.
And he just happened to like lock himself in an area and survive. And I think because he lived and the others didn't, you really latched onto him as like, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
No, I want you to know from
it
the
was-
deepest
it
part
was-
of my soul, it's because he's an idiot.
Well, not
You're not wrong.
just that. It was the way he was talking about the reports and like insurance shit. Like the flavor text you gave that poor character made me want to torment him for the rest of his life.
He's
I'm
a
sorry.
bureaucrat. We'll have to see. Thankfully, you
And
did.
I hate bureaucrats, Cameron.
Yeah.
It's really simple.
You did save his life.
You character assassinated.
That's fair. He did go back. I think he ended up being helpful in the end, right? Didn't he? He got you all like
Barely.
paid from
Barely.
Neverwinter, and he might show
Yeah.
up in the sequel adventure. We'll have
No.
to
Yeah,
see.
you had him send me the stupid fucking letter. I was like, "Hey, Chrislyn, how you doing, buddy?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Okay.
Just no.
Chrislyn wrote an entire song talking
Yeah.
about what a giant idiot.
I think that's the other reason you
I
all
never
really don't
thought-
like him is that he doesn't notice that you're bullying him that well. So like the fact that like there's
It did
no
make it
immediate
worse for me,
effect, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's been a lot of fun.
Also, I'm just gonna point out the fact that he's a bureaucrat, and you locked him alone in a room with an assassin.
Yeah,
You were begging us. You were begging us to do something about it.
that's fair.
Nope.
That's fair. Oh, cattail.
I think my favorite encounter was Carson in the window.
Oh yeah,
Oh my
that
God.
was hilarious. Yeah, that was just a hilarious moment of the dice being the dice. So we're
They were so
exploring
mean to you.
Mhm.
we were exploring the abandoned manse, which had been overtaken by orcs. And we were looking for just a way into the building, and so there was like a window on the ground floor, and I was just like, fuck it, I'll be the Kool-Aid man and break this window. And the athletics roll just I
Was
think I
not
rolled a
there.
natural 1
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
You rolled
for
two
that.
natural ones?
it was
in a row?
the number.
Might not
The number
have
was
any
like
day.
less than 10 because I think
Yeah.
the DC I was like, okay, it's probably like not that new, maybe like a 13 or a 14, but it was hard to meet that.
So Carson ends up just like bonking against this window. But what made it even funnier is there's another window like on the other side of the room that Diana just opens normally because they're not locked.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just like I'm over here, Carson's over there just like smashing his face into the window with to no avail, and Diana's just like, you
Yeah.
can just open it, it's fine.
Yeah.
Diana just stealthed it in, just like, boop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel
the
like we had good dice days. It was either we all rolled like ones
Yeah.
and twos,
Mhm.
or we were
Yeah.
like doing okay, but we never had like good days.
No,
I think
we
I
had
had
like
one
days
good
where
day.
people were doing good. Yeah, we
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
days where
Not as-
people were
but
doing
not
good.
as a
I remember
team.
there was one or no, because there was a couple days where Carson was like rolling 18s and 20s fairly consistently throughout the entire episode. And then like one where Diana was doing really good, or I was getting them really good on non-combat rolls and stuff like that. And
yeah.
then there was days when everybody was just like one.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
was there not a day where all of us
Disadvantage.
rolled like below a 5 on some kind of check? Like all of us did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
were moments
we were
where I had to
doing
figure out
pretty
how to
bad on
like
that last
fail
day
you forward.
at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, the finale that we ended up having to split in two because we could not roll
Oh
properly.
my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Speaking
That's
of, what was
When we
your
were going up that mountain road and everyone was rolling
Oh, that was
shittily and you kept falling
Bailey?
down with
Bailey the
and
horse
everything.
almost died.
slid
I
off
was
the
like,
rope twice.
yeah. What about? I guess
I slid
that
off a rope twice.
yeah segues into the least favorite part of the adventure for everyone.
Dying.
Fair.
Maina dying.
I don't
Least
know.
favorite
That might be my favorite part, just because I got to be
Of
like,
course.
oh. I so rarely get to just be like, hey, listen, this was suicide with extra steps.
Oh my
But it was
God.
good.
I guess like my actual like the only part in the entire game where I actually was sitting there and I'm like, I'm really about to just say fuck this, was probably the last battle when everybody else was going outside and I stayed in the building to stay safe, and the dragon went into the window and said, nah,
Yeah.
bitch, and knocked me
Yeah.
out, and I got a 1 on my first death save, and I'm like, I swear on everything that lives, I will just end the universe if this is where I die.
And you are the party's
Like, that was the
healer,
only time
essentially.
where I was-
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just like, okay, this is it then. I
Well, and
did
I
the
think the
one thing
part-
right, and I get punished for it.
One
Yeah.
of the things that really sucked about that is because that was part of the part 2 of the finale.
Yeah.
So this was like
Yeah.
the end of the main thing, and it was a 1, so
Yeah.
it automatically counted as 2 fails. So you were only like the next
Yeah.
roll was either going to save you or kill you for sure.
Yeah.
And we were all doing awful with rolls at that point, so like
Yep.
that was the only reason I was so pissed. Is I'm like, we've all been sucking so bad. The website does not love us today. I'm going to die next turn, and this is just
Yeah.
where we're at.
Yeah, that was a
I
super
was-
tense
You
moment.
didn't.
So upset.
Just
Yeah, it
thank
was one of
fuck you
those-
didn't.
Yeah. One of those things where I was like, I was sitting, I think we all had our cameras on for that one too. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, your face is loud. Get it under control. Like, you
It is
cannot,
very loud, yeah.
like, you cannot, like, think. Your face can't be saying what you're thinking right now. You gotta, and I, like, at one point, I think I had my notes in front of me and I was looking down and I wasn't even writing. I was just like scribbling a line back and forth because I needed to not go off on camera and be like, I swear to God, if you're about to kill a second character, 5
Listen,
minutes from the end of the campaign.
sometimes the dice have their own story to tell. What about
And sometimes I'm
Yeah.
the end of the story that you're telling.
what about Hannah and Anna? Any particular part that you're like, oh, this could have been different or this could have been improved?
I think I felt that way. I in my head I referred to it as the Battle of Helm's Deep, but it wasn't that.
Oh,
It
Falcon's
was
Lodge.
putting down, yeah, Falcon's Lodge, because it was just what we fought 3 different waves of attacks,
Yeah.
and
3 different
Yeah.
waves from all 4 directions. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think like for the first go around it was fine, but I think just as a player personally, I like a balance of combat and progressing in the story. And so for it, because I think that was also like a 2-parter for us because we couldn't finish it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was more than
That
2
was like
parts.
3 or 4.
Yeah, I think that
that
was
3 or 4.
Yeah.
four
That was-
sessions we spent
For
on that
me,
battle.
it was like, okay,
Yeah.
it's just like nothing but combat. Yeah.
It was a lot.
That's
Well, there was-
interesting because
In between 2. Sorry, Carson, go ahead. Or Carson.
that's my name now legally.
Sorry, Anna.
I just think that's interesting because I really liked that whole encounter. I think mostly just because I enjoy playing with different types of game mechanics. Like I'm more of like a game mechanics player than a role player. So it was a fun chance to like experience the siege mechanics that you don't get to experience in a lot of D&D scenarios. And we had the opportunity to like figure out our own like battle placements and managing resources and really setting ourselves up to either, succeed or fail, and getting out, calls for help when we did ended up like saving our asses.
Yeah.
Big time.
But
That was so clever of us, I just have to say.
For context,
Yeah.
this was like a 3-day siege. There was essentially the 5 of you plus 3 NPCs, so 8 people against. I threw a total of 180 orcs and blights at you over the course of 3 days. So it was a massive defensive effort.
Yeah, and I think we only managed to get one long rest in there.
Yeah.
But I think like
Oh my
I
God.
will say one of the positive outcomes of that though is like this group compared to other groups that I play with is much better at, I think, strategy and planning and working together as a group, which I appreciate because like we all survived. Whereas like with the other group, it's just, oh, let's just fight, and then there's no like thought of, well, what could the potential consequence be after the fact, or someone might die, and then it just like derails
I agree with Hannah.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well,
I have to say though,
Hannah.
it's not often that I've been as frustrated as when Werewolf Rosalia went off into the woods. I was just like, my fucking god, do not do this. Do not make us lose a player here.
I was gonna say that was there were 2 things that made that like particularly frustrating for me, and one of them was the fact that my character in the quest just before we started on the siege was the Woodland Manse, and I got bit. Well, Rosalia got bit, and there was a whole conversation outside of like our D&D channel, like our campaign channel with Cameron, about like, okay, this is what phase of the moon is in, and like this is the rules, and this is all the things that are going to happen. And the siege started, and I think the very first question that I asked was like, how much light is there right now in the nighttime? And Cameron was like, it's a full moon. And I just had to cool.
Oh, I loved it. It's good.
Yeah, and then also the between 2 of the sieges, these absolute walnuts snuck in and like poisoned our food and water supplies. We were okay. We were in an okay situation to just shore up all of our defenses and sequester ourselves inside this, like, at the time it was pretty hardily built. And Cameron was like, that's a little too easy. You guys aren't going to have any more food.
Yeah.
I will say, so that part is not in the box set. The adventure itself, I think I mentioned, there's like a single paragraph at the end which says like, in Falcon's Hunting Lodge, or maybe it's in the Woodland Manse. At the end of the Woodland Manse, it says, oh, maybe it's not here. Where the hell is it?
I mean,
counterattack
wasn't in the original set.
That's
just too small of a detail.
Yeah, the day after the characters attack the manse, dark clouds settle over Neverwinter as the Anchorites of Talos stage a counterattack against Falcon's Hunting Lodge. Gorthok the Thunderboar smashes through the lodge's palisade, allowing 20 orcs to storm the lodge. That's how it is in the adventure. At that time, you had already killed Gorthok the Thunderboar, and
So clutch.
it started out as a emergent gameplay and story, which I really loved, because there's this random encounter table, which is like every time you travel between 2 locations, I roll on a table and it's like, where is Cryovane the White Dragon right now? And you met him early in the adventure because you just happened to be where I rolled. But while you were at the manse, when you got to the manse, I rolled and it said, oh, he's at the Falcon's Lodge. So I had him attack the palisade and damage it. And then I was like, I could make it 20 orcs, but you all would butcher 20 orcs, as well as you had the necklace of fireball. And I was like, I can't let them get to Cryovane with that intact. Otherwise, that'll trivialize the fight. So I'm going to throw enough bad guys at them until they have to use the necklace at least a couple times.
And I knew what you were doing too,
Yeah.
which is why I
Yeah.
refused to use it as much as I could.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, we
all
had
part of
forced
the
you to use it a couple
K-fob.
times.
Yeah. But yeah.
I like that encounter. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I like that encounter because lately with Tom, we've really been doing a lot of board games lately, and I find that he's like, "You're really good at strategizing, babe," and I'm of course like, "I don't know what that. No, I'm not. I can't organize my life. I can't organize a battlefield. What are you talking about?" And like during that encounter, like I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, I have these resources. We have this many enemies here, this many enemies here. They can go out there. We can stay in here. Like it was like I was stressed, but it was good stress. I was
And
like,
you were
okay,
like,
I actually have to think about this.
you were up at the top of the tower using your magic to like coordinate with people and stuff. I thought everyone did. Like Carson and Bax were on horseback charging outside the walls through hordes of orcs. Rosalia and Diana were
Message
both
as well.
yeah. You were both like sniping people, taking out like prime targets, getting the commanders of divisions and stuff. It was really a ton of fun. But I can absolutely
Yeah.
understand the length of time was Hannah. It got maybe a little like too much of the same pattern for you, a little too much of the same thing. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I think part of the issue was also we were having really bad scheduling issues around that time, so it just
Yeah.
felt like every week
Yeah.
we'd like cancel, and it's like, oh, we got to go back to the siege again.
That's
this
true.
week.
Maybe if we
Yeah.
got
Siege
through it
again
in
this
like
week.
if we got through it in like 2 months or a month and a half, but I think it ended up being closer to like 4 months of like real world time. That's a
Yeah.
really good point.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the siege ended up being like 6 pages in my notebook.
yeah, it was,
of
there
notes.
was a lot
Like,
going
it
on.
was long.
We had so much to keep track of.
Yeah.
So I did ask for questions, just like when I've done Waterdeep. We did a Waterdeep like mid campaign interview. I did one for Dragon or Rime of the Frost Maiden. This time I got a bunch of questions. Some of these we might have already talked about, but I figure we could go through these and bang them out. So first one, Anon47426 asks, how long was it compared to Lost Mines of Phandelver, and how do you compare their quality? Is it worth getting this as an expansion to Lost Mines of Phandelver? I would not be able to answer that, but Anna and Elle can speak to that.
Yeah, I think if, like, reasonably, if you used a starter character in Lost Mines, like, you could tie in that same character or, like, a lot of backstory with Dragon of Icespire Peak, because they're in the same setting, so a lot of the same, story beats will apply there. But yeah, I think it's, like, I think both campaigns start at level 1, so obviously you couldn't, have a 1-to-1 there, but because the setting is the same.
I wonder if you could strip out, like, you just take the quests from this and be like, okay, while you're doing Lost Mines of Phandelver, you could also go to these locations, and this is basically just a shit ton of side quests with magic items that you could get.
Yeah, I think you could definitely, like, piece them together in that way, too. That would be an interesting way to, like, run them. But as far as length goes, Lost Mines of Phandelver is short. I think when we did it, I think we did it in, like, 9 or 10 sessions, whereas this one was almost 30 of our, like, 4-hour session blocks. So this campaign is definitely a lot heftier as far as the amount of time invested to finish it.
Yeah, and like you said, this one went up to level 7. Lost Mines goes to 5?
4. Goes to 4.
Okay, so almost twice the level content.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I played Lost Mines, we did levels 1 to 5 because the DM did some extra stuff on it. So it took a bit longer for us. I think we finished it in 15 sessions or something. But I have actually had a friend of mine who, now that we've finished Icespire, he's been telling me about he's actually combined the campaigns before. which is completely doable. Just they work so similarly because they are set in the same place that can be not an issue to combine them either. But
Yeah.
I prefer this one, I will have to say.
Yeah, I think Dragon of Icespire Peak, you get a little more variation with like the types of encounters you deal with, the parts of the world you get to explore, the NPCs you get to talk to and form connections with. It's a lot more open of a world because, and Cameron, you said earlier, like Lost Mines of Phandelver is pretty linear if the DM doesn't throw in any extra flavor bits. So yeah, they can definitely intermingle, and because they're both, starter sets, I think that they're have similarities and differences that make them kind of mesh together pretty well. So to answer that question, yes, they could. They're good. Dragon of Icespire Peak is definitely a good, expansion if you wanted to add on to a Lost Mines experience.
Yeah, I will say
Yeah.
I haven't read Lost Mines. I have read Dragons of Stormwreck Isle. That's the third. So Lost Mines came out first in 2014. This one came out, I think, 5 years ago, and then Stormwreck Isle came out 2 years ago. It does seem like Wizards of the Coast, at least with their starter sets, I don't know about all their other adventures, but they are trying to each one to target different styles of play. And I do think, Anon, if you're looking to explore which one, the nice thing is I'm pretty sure these are each like 10 or $15. So you could check them out or go to your library and check them out to see which one might fit your style of play. But I definitely recommend this. I think this teaches good habits for new DMs. The fact that it is like, okay, here's a sandbox. It is contained in this area, but within that sandbox, it is up to the players to drive the pace and adventure. That is a good habit for DMs to learn, so they don't. I frequently get young or new DMs like asking for help, like the party didn't do what I was expecting them to do. And I was like, that's because you can't expect them to do shit. Like you gotta go with the flow. They're gonna manage to fuck up whatever you plan ahead. But yeah,
You have to alternately not have faith in your team and have all the faith in your team.
yeah. Calamity Mark II asks, how did you like sidekicks? So I guess this question is more for me. They're in the adventure. It's designed so that you play it with 4 players. If you have less than 4 players, it gives you this option of a player can have their character and a sidekick. Early on in the campaign, I offered that as an opportunity that no one really picked up on. Everyone was kind of focused on their character. So we didn't use it. The sidekick rules seem fine. I've used it in other campaigns. But I say that I think, especially for new players, let them have the one character and not have to worry about like a sidekick. Oh, this is Joe Rosso 578. What locations, if any, did your party skip? And you actually 100%ed this thing. You did every adventure. I shared that like map of the structure. So like the main, if you quote unquote, the main adventures are those 9 within the boxes. Falcon's Hunting Lodge, Circle of Thunder, and the Tower of Storms are all 3 like entirely optional things that you don't have to do, even to like they're not associated with leveling up or anything. But you did those also. I think it's this group's style to like pull on whatever thread I give. So I actually had to like what I've learned this compared to Waterdeep Dragon Heist is if I give too many threads, people get a little like choice paralysis. So I try to manage not giving too many at once. Okay, here's one. The username was deleted, but running this adventure now in Nomengard leaves a lot to be desired. Did you do anything to flesh out locations? How real did the world feel for the player? So this one's for y'all.
I really like
That was one of
Nomengard.
the first places we were at, right?
Yeah, that's with
One
the
of our first spots,
two gnome
if I
kings you
remember
helped
correctly.
out.
The
Yeah.
Kings, right?
Yes.
Orbaz and Nurkley.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
There was some romantic drama. There was space stealers. There was dudes sleeping on the job. Like, I thought it was fine.
I think also it's pretty difficult for new players or people that have really only played with one particular GM. But I've spoken to some friends of mine that also play in real life, that play on a physical tabletop. And I was explaining how our campaign has just gone, it just went on and on and on and on. And she looked it up and she was like, this is not an on and on and on and on kind of like adventure. What are you talking about? And I think Cameron does a really, really good job of reacting to his players and adapting as well. So I think there is absolutely something to be said about that. If Cameron feels that the environment is lacking, he will make the effort to
So
beef it up a little bit.
That is a good point. I tried to add something interesting for players to like be curious about in every location, unless it already had it. But like the Woodland Manse, as written in the book, is literally just a house with orcs in it, and they talk about, oh, there was this wizard that was here once, and I was like, that's not that interesting. So I did that's an example. I was like, let's make the wizard a werewolf, and let's make her boyfriend a vampire or something.
Episode.
Yeah. It was Halloween themed.
I'm pretty sure that she is a vampire and he is a werewolf.
Yeah.
I got bit by him.
However, So she was a vampire, and she was an elven vampire, and she fell in love with an orc. And orcs don't live that long, so to help him, lengthen his life, she essentially gave him lycanthropy. And that was all in the background. I wasn't trying to make that the forefront of Woodland Manse, but it's just an interesting tidbit. And then because I introduced that, Rosalia got bit, and then we had a whole thing with okay, now she has lycanthropy. How do we deal with that? Those sorts of things, whoever asked the question, I think are the things that help make the world feel real. Yes, anding. I am a big advocate of DMs saying no to players. I think that sometimes new dungeon masters are very afraid to be I can't handle that. I can't let you be a dragon from the far realm with god powers. I think DMs should be empowered to say no to those, but I'm comfortable where I am in my dungeon mastering experience, generally saying no less often, trying to yes and, or yes, but, this complication happens kind of thing. Joe Rosso 578. Any plans to run the trilogy follow-up in D&D Beyond? Yeah, that's actually what we're going to be doing after this. It's a trilogy, but each adventure is pretty short, so I'm viewing it as the second half of this adventure. And in that regard, my plan is, now that we've gotten a good taste and familiarity with our characters, I'm going to tie in some stuff a little more closely, like Diana's background. There's opportunity for us to talk about things that the players care about for their characters that will make more of an impact for this campaign. Okay, Polka Cheryl, thank you for the question. I know you always ask lots of questions. What was the most surprising thing your players did? What most surprising part of the campaign what was the most surprising part for the players? I guess let's do you all first. Was there a part of the campaign that really surprised you? Something turned out not the way you expected? Besides the
For me, it
Thunder
was
Boar.
definitely the fight with Cryovane, and I think it underwhelmed me compared to being overwhelming, because we had spent a year and a half playing in this world, getting prepared to do this fight, and then it was over in less than an hour. We just tore him apart pretty much.
Once you got to him, it was. And Cryovane in the book is a young adult white dragon. I buffed him up. I put him somewhere in between young adult and adult in terms of his stats and powers. I think I should have just made him a full adult white dragon, because you all kicked his ass.
The siege felt harder than the battle with
Yeah,
Cryovane.
exactly.
Yeah, agreed.
And we finally rolled well when we were battling Cryowin.
Yeah, true too.
Yeah, everything went our way for once, and I was just like, oh, cool.
I think there was a small
Yeah.
part of me that like was wondering if Cameron had somehow rigged it to go in our favor. And I know that's not the case, but I started wondering like if there was some sort of DM conspiracy.
No,
going
I'll
on.
say that I think the writers of the adventure intentionally wanted, like, they essentially want the fight with Cryovane to be a victory lap, because a party of 4 level 7 characters would just beat the shit out of a young adult dragon. Like, it's not even funny. All the kobolds and traps and stuff there, that stuff I added, because that literally all that's there is those fellow adventurers that you got into a fight with. Then you go in, that whole place is empty, and then you fight Cryovane up top. And I was like, that's not that satisfying. You gotta. So the kobolds and stuff is stuff that I
kobolds
added
were
to
good.
like. Yeah,
It was
yeah.
fun. It was a little bit of like Home Alone shenanigans that we did with them.
I love kobolds. I love their Home
Yeah.
Alone
It was
shenanigans.
great.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say this might be a biased answer, but like the final fight with Cryovane, because it was like we had just gotten to level 7. I had just gotten Bardic Secrets, and it was like, you can take another spell from another class. And I'm like, okay, what's going to help me kill a dragon? Because I need to be a full utility character. And I got like a ramp. What was it? I think it's is Psychic Lance a wizard spell? Or
Yeah, I'm
I
pretty
couldn't
sure
remember
that's a
exactly
wizard
what.
spell, but it's super good.
I got it on a whim. Because I'm like, I'm sure this will be, because like I read like the details of it. It's like, you don't need to know where they are, as long as they're in the range and you know their name, that's enough. And I'm like, that's helpful. And just when I finally got out of the building limping because I almost died on one hit, I was like, fuck this, I'm just gonna use it, and if it doesn't work, oh well, I tried. And it ended up being very helpful.
It is. I mean, even if that damage hadn't killed him, it incapacitates him for a turn. It's a huge, like, if they fail to
Yeah,
and,
so it's like I gotta help somebody.
yeah, and that's the other
Yeah.
thing. At a young adult dragon level, they don't have legendary saves yet. I gave him some legendary actions and stuff to try and help the action economy, but
Yeah.
the fact that, like, yeah, that's a really, really good spell. I think for me the thing that surprised me the most was actually your attachment. I'll say this: I don't always have the most confidence in my role play for NPCs, but it felt like you all got pretty attached to some of the people in town and things like that. So that made me really happy. It seemed like you all as players really leaned into that sort of role playing and relationships and stuff. That was great.
I really only
You
care.
know, I had NPCs I loved and I had I hate.
Yeah. Arcane.
Well, I was feeling Toblin, but he was also feeling mean. So
Yeah.
it was great.
Yeah.
I did learn recently, so canonically, I guess in the Lost Mines of Phandelver adventure, Toblin's married with a kid.
Yeah.
My
yeah.
universe is
You made
Toblin.
me a homewrecker.
My version of Toblin. This is
Yeah.
Homewrecker.
this is before he got married. This is single
I'm gonna
Toblin.
log off.
Okay.
Okay, Arcane Nomad. Congrats on finishing the adventure. We have used Dragon of Icespire Peak as a jumping off point for our adventure. The utilitarian nature of the box set inspired me to add lots of details for fluff. What did you add to the adventure? I feel like I've talked about most of those already. The only other thing I would
Yeah.
mention that I haven't in Axholme. Axholme is the place with the banshee, and there were like giant spiders and stuff.
Yeah.
There are not, I'm pretty sure there are not like goblins over there, and I added them to fill out Axholme, and then they ended up being like, you could have gone either way. You could have fought them, you could have made friends with them. You ended up like making friends with them, and they came and helped you out during the siege. But that helped because there's like really just a fuck ton of ghouls and then a banshee up top. So that I'll add that as another tidbit that I used to flesh out, added to the adventure.
Yeah, because all the backup you can get during the siege is so important. Because like we were probably all at our last string when reinforcements started winding up. Because I'm like, if we have to do another day on this, and if we can't get a long rest, because we were doing that exhausted. I think we had an exhaustion point because neither of us had slept the night before.
Yeah.
And
I had two.
I was just like, okay, so we can get through this. Yeah. No, cause yeah, you transformed. So we were like,
Mhm.
I was sitting there like during it, and like we have to make it through this, and reinforcements have to come tonight because we cannot do another one like this. We're
Yeah.
not gonna
Well,
make
'cause I
another
think
day.
Yeah.
And then
we were
reinforcements started
also
showing up. I'm like, thank God.
And it was
we were
a good moment.
collectively out of health potions at that point.
Yeah,
And
you
like,
were
Yeah.
you were
Yeah,
on your
we
last
were pretty
legs.
dwindled on stuff.
I think
I had
I
one
didn't
left.
sleep, so I had no spells. I couldn't help anybody.
Yeah.
So like I was down to like throwing alchemist fire and shooting crossbows.
Mhm.
Like that's where I was at as like one of the only casters in the group. So I'm like, this is gonna be bad.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I tried to make it a bit of a Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers look to the east on the dawn of the third day type thing, because like I had it. I believe I had it so more orcs showed up, and you saw that more orcs were coming. But then it turned out that was the ice dagger orcs that are like buddies with
Yeah.
you, and then the goblins
Yeah,
showed
'cause
up,
that's
and then
where
the gnomes and
I
dwarves. Yeah.
I I
Yeah,
didn't
because
even
that was the
realize
dwarven,
reinforcements had shown up. Go ahead.
because that was the dwarven extraction.
Excavate. Yeah, yeah,
Excavation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
those orcs.
I didn't even realize reinforcements had shown up because you said more orcs. I'm like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
yep, okay. So I just started checking out, and then I think I heard gnomes at some point. Like, why are gnomes here? I'm like, oh, we know gnomes.
Yeah.
We know.
That was kind of the emotional beat I was hoping I'd hit there. So that was a lot of fun. And actually, yeah, bringing up the dwarven excavation, that's another thing that you all surprised me on. Like, the book very much assumes like, oh, these orcs are going to show up, the party's going to kill them. But you all like negotiated a little peace between the orcs and the dwarves, and that was really satisfying to observe also. Let's see. DJ Skeleton 2005 asks, I'm currently on this campaign. It's my first legitimate one, and my party finished the Gnomengard quest on our last session. Any tips you wish you knew when you started the campaign yourself? Not for me as a DM, but maybe for you as players. Is there anything, if you had to do this again, that you do differently for your characters or anything? Or I feel like we just had a pretty great time in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there'd be anything different that I would do, honestly.
I think we handled it really well because we just had the perfect like convergence of spells and like out of the box thinking to reliably find the face stealers, the shapeshifters.
Yeah.
And it was relatively easy because we figured out what the limitations of it were and how to get around it. So I think if we had to go back, I don't think I would change any of it. I probably wouldn't have thrown around an Assassin's Guild coin
As flippantly.
because that really screwed us for a second. But that was other people's reactions to my assassinhood is not my responsibility. That's not my circus, and they're not my monkeys.
Your early quests you really shouldn't want to redo your early quests because those are your lesson learners anyway.
Yeah.
So like you shouldn't be like, I'm going to redo this differently. You're like, I'm going to approach the next scenario differently.
That's a really good point.
Because you're unless you like majorly fuck up, you're gonna make it out of it. Just take the moment to be like, hey, this is the early levels. This is gonna be the most generous moment of my like journey where the game is gonna be like, hey, just for next time, maybe think about this instead, because the later game is not gonna do that for you. You have especially if you have a DM who's really trying to time crunch you, like, hey, you get a set amount of time to make these decisions so we can keep it moving, blah, blah, blah. Which Cameron's pretty generous with time, but I know some DMs are like, hey, you got 10 seconds. Make it a thing.
Oh God,
like,
Hannah, imagine your
you
anxiety if I did that.
like you have to start thinking quicker as you get further into the game because you have more variables, everything's stronger. The DM's going to give you more information because you're like, hey, this has legendary resists and this has legendary action. This has lair action. And you're like, what the hell is that? And you don't have time to dwell on that later in the game. So really your first few things is like, cool, I learned something. I'm going to use this later.
Yeah, that's a
and
really
you
good
learn
approach.
so much about your characters,
satisfied.
too.
Right, you become satisfied with the decisions you make. 'Cause it's like, I either learned something, or I learned I'm good at something, and I'm going to do this again.
And this is
I think
collaborative
that
storytelling.
Encounter, yeah, because I think that encounter was the only time I used Charm Person in the entire game.
Yeah.
And I'm a bard. Because you find out for this setting, I'm like, oh, for this setting, this is not going to be that useful. But I did use Message. Message was my BFF.
Yeah. But yeah, it's collaborative storytelling. So like a story, like the heroes aren't perfect the whole time. They're gonna mess up. Like don't beat yourself up for whatever mistakes. And usually, hopefully, knock on wood, the DM turns mistakes or downturns in like dice rolls or something into like funny moments rather than like totally frustrating moments.
There was a moment like right after Azalea popped up because she speaks Draconic, where that it was kind of one of those things that I threw in there because I was like, well, it might be useful. And the one time that I used it, I was like, why are you here? And Cameron was like, he's just a jerk. He calls you a whole bunch of names. He's just a jerk. He's a teenage jerk.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, I'm really glad that I made that.
But I wouldn't have been
Really
able to
helpful.
do that if he didn't speak Draconic. See, that's like the marriage of player intent and DM building, world building. That was great.
Yeah.
Plus, if you're with a good group, as the game goes, you're not going to wish somebody did differently. Like, even in the moment, if you're fighting, if you're doing an encounter, if somebody makes a stupid decision, in quotes, like, you're going to be frustrated in the moment, but part of the game is like, okay, how can we work around this as a team? Obviously, if it's something, worse than that, then, DM's responsibility to come in and say, hey, guys, whatever. But like, you're gonna get momentarily frustrated at your team every now and then because they're gonna make a decision either in character or because they're really excited to try something. You're not gonna remember in a few sessions. It's not gonna matter.
You'll remember the most exciting moments and the funniest moments, and then everything else is just kind of the nice backdrop to those moments of the campaign.
Like Carson almost died and then got a 20 on the last minute. It was like 1/120.
Carson
like,
and
oh
Bailey.
And Bailey, yeah, that was
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was also a
favored me
really
so
funny
well
moment for us
because
as players.
because Carson went down and then Bailey went down and Cameron let me do death saves for Bailey because I had been like actively playing her as like a character for a while.
I think I would have
And
had a
so-
mutiny if I didn't let you do death saves for Bailey.
Absolutely.
Oh, you.
Yeah,
For sure.
we all would have walked.
Well, because at this point she was like our
no.
group mascot. She replaced Vinny, but
Yeah.
Well, and it was also
Yeah.
it was also funny because I think there was like a point in time where we did the very like girly pop thing of always derailing the conversation and started talking about like random things, at which point I'm pretty sure Cameron would just mute himself and walk away from the computer.
Yeah, he would. I hear the door
but-
open over here.
Yeah. But we established pretty early on that all of us were either already horse girls or had a love for horses. And there was this like collective breath hold where none of us said a thing for like a full 5 seconds after Cameron said, and Bailey goes down. And all of us were like, I swear to God, if this horse fucking dies.
Yeah.
yeah,
was
fuck my
gonna
player
be-
character. If the horse goes
Yeah.
down, it's over.
Goes down, we revolt. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
gonna lead
Yeah.
to a divorce for sure.
Yeah. Like, this
yeah.
is where the campaign actually ends. Like, none of us
But
are.
Yeah.
The dice like stood up for us that day, because my first death save,
Yeah.
I rolled a natural 1.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And then I rolled for Carson, rolled a natural 20, then rolled for Bailey and rolled a second natural 20. We were just, it was
Yeah.
like
Yep.
celebration erupt.
I heard
The-
the Rocky theme music as you both stood back up for sure.
The
Yeah.
screenshots that
We
were
kind of
taken.
did that with. Yeah. We kind of did that with Vincent too, because I think there was one battle where we were having to like escort Vincent somewhere, or we still had him for some reason. I don't remember, but you're like, yeah, this monster's gonna hit Vincent, and I think I blew my mic out
Yeah.
yelling
Yeah.
at you, because I'm like, do not hit my fucking cow.
Yeah. I
I
think
think all of us were pretty
Yeah.
upset that was the narrative choice that Cameron had made in that moment.
I will say, for prospective new DMs, that's definitely a conversation you should have with your party about like what is on and off limits, because some people would really might not be comfortable with going after those targets. But when you have a party of established adventurers, it is a helpful tool of threat and danger to be able to say, okay, maybe I can't hit you in your plate armor and your winged boots and all this bullshit, but I can kill your dog. And like that is like, that's a helpful bit
Yeah.
of pressure you can apply.
Yeah.
Cameron, if you ever kill a
'cause,
dog
like,
in
for
a
your-
campaign that I'm in, I'm perma-muting you. I'm,
Gotcha.
I'll leave the server. Like,
I
I'm
would
out.
never
I'm
play
gone.
with you again.
And we've established that as like a boundary that I won't cross.
I think that was part of the reason why I didn't want to bring Aubrey with us up the mountain to the final fight with Cryovane, because I was like, Cammy's
Yeah.
going to try to kill this Drake guard, and it was
Yeah.
Yeah.
Star
Well,
Drake,
that's
I mean. It's like, no, it's not happening.
That's the thing you have to. That's the thing you have to debate as players, because at the end of the day, you're playing a game, and the animal companions you get are utility as well. So it's like you gotta take a minute and be like, okay, do we use the Drake in the fight, or do we send the Drake back home to her dad because she's domesticated and she's an animal? And you get like, if you like playing utility, but like you're also like, no, not the animals. You're like sitting there with your head in your hands, like, I don't know what to do in this moment.
Yeah.
That was another
the
moment
record-
that surprised me. It was one that you did decide to send her home instead of use her, and then two, that it was such like it felt like a impactful ethical choice you were making. That was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Homegirl had a collar.
And also now we
on.
can meet her in Neverwinter.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Since we're probably going to Neverwinter in the next event. So
All right, we
Had
got
a whole name tag. Like, she was going home.
we are halfway
Yeah.
through these questions, so I'm gonna bang out some of these real quick. Timely Masterpiece 69. What did you change from the game as written? I think we've already talked about everything that I changed
Yeah.
from the game as written.
Yeah.
Moist
Yeah.
Opportunity 34. God, I hate that name. What was your favorite and least favorite parts of About Your Players? No, that's not right. What was your favorite and least favorite parts of the module? How About Your Players? I also feel like we touched on that already. You already talked about your
Yeah.
favorite and least favorites.
I'd say so, yeah.
Pivax. Pivaax. How much knowledge of the Sword Coast and its politics did you use? Did the party adventure outside the sandbox? No, we stuck pretty closely to the sandbox. And I will say, my DM style, I do like to hint and tease at the larger world. There's so much lore out there, but I don't want to be there monologuing for my players like, oh, you found this emblem and this is the house in Neverwinter where they grew up in. Like I'm not trying to like be fucking George or sorry, J.R. Tolkien like earned his right to do that. I have not earned the right to do that, and I don't want to bore my players with that. So the politics of the Sword Coast, the only thing that really mattered is the inciting action is that Neverwinter is being rebuilt after Mount Haltonau exploded. So because it's been rebuilt, they sent people out to rebuild Phandalin. That's really, I think, the only major. And then we added some stuff, right, with both Helena and Mena and Rosalia's organizations and backgrounds. We added some of that, but that's not necessarily like super canonical. That was more just player hooks.
Part of the reason Kristlin was so vague is because I came into like this campaign not knowing anything about Faerun, not mythos, not lore, not deities, not any of that. I came in with my only exposure to D&D before this was Exandria, so I'm an Exandria lore girl all the way. So I came into this just looking at camera and being like, okay.
Yeah, I didn't want that to be a barrier of entry. I didn't want anyone to be like, "Oh, I don't know what he's talking
It wasn't
about."
at all.
That's good.
Yeah. No, it wasn't at all.
So yeah, I think it is a plus to the campaign that you don't need to know any of that stuff. You could take this whole region and stick it on whatever world you want, and it would basically run the same. Poke Cheryl with another question: what was your favorite part of intra-party roleplay in the campaign? For me, I think it was the party coming to terms with Mayna's death. I thought there was a lot of poignant roleplay, storytelling, and sharing. I don't know if you all had a different moment between your characters.
I have to say, running around playing hide and seek with the werewolf, that was fun. I have to
Oh
say.
yeah, yeah.
I really liked this was a testament to how we were in our characters, and we kind of talked about this earlier with Mayna and Rosalia. Like the fact that like I knew my character was buddies with Mayna. We were like two peas in a pod. We had similar mindsets on things. Like one would say something and the other one was like, I'm in. No questions asked.
Yeah.
But then when she shifted to her other character, like the vibe was completely different. And like your character felt that, you felt that, you knew the other character felt that. And that was really cool to like either experience and then like watch like separate as just like a player. It's like, oh yeah, no, she does not like this bitch. And like, it's just and it's nothing because like me and Hen are buddies, you know,
Yeah.
virtually as well.
Yeah.
Nothing against her personally, but it was like Chrysalin and Rosalia were not friends, and that was all there was to it. For her and Mayna, hell yeah, brother, we were fucking people up, no reason, all fun.
I think part of that dynamic also contributed to the fact that Mayna made no one aware of really what had brought her to this adventure and what had brought her to the group. So to have a whole sister show up, I think Chrysalin there might have been like a sense of betrayal there, maybe a little bit of like, you know, this person was very important to me, and here's this like entire massive piece of lore that I didn't know. And so I think there maybe might
a
have
section
been
of her
some,
life
like,
she kept separate.
Yeah, there might have been
You
a
also
little bit of
did not-
resentment.
Well, yeah, it was that. I can say that for sure. Another part of it was the way you introduced Rosalia into the story. It was like brushing a cat's fur backwards. Like everything about it was just wrong. Like I was dealing with my friend dying. We were dealing with a stupid fight situation. And then this rude ass bitch shows up, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Because Chrysalin as a character, she's confident. She's happy. She wants to be up in people's business. Like she's that trope girl. She's that girl. And then having like that messed with, especially on an interpersonal relationship, just made her incessantly unhappy.
Yeah, Rosalia very so much elicits that reaction from most of the people that come across her. So, but yeah.
But then, like, me and Bayax had a completely different relationship, and me and Bayax were buddies too.
You were almost like a throuple with Toblin, and then he found out, he was married, and that, you know, I think in the sequel campaign we gotta divorce Toblin. We gotta. Yeah, his wife won't stand for this.
I just. No, Hannah did a really good job with Bayax. I think she was probably the one that had the most standout, consistent character for me, because you could depend on Bayax being in a situation being like, "Hi, business card, friend."
Yeah. Pretty much. But
he's a good boy.
That was fun for me though, because like the other character that I play in the other campaign is she's a wizard, but she's also like I think, the only one who kicks ass. So pretty much the rest of the group will fuck themselves over in a fight, and then she'll come in and she's like, "I'm gonna blow it up again."
She's absolutely
And
the Gandalf of the group.
that's
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah.
That
Brina
is-
crew.
Yeah. Hex_gay survivor says, what random encounter generator did you use? So this is a good point. I do want to shout out to Lucas Cockerham. They wrote the DM's Guide to Running Dragon of
names, babe.
the Lucas.
Yeah.
That is the name he published the book under. That is his actual name. Let's not make fun of him for it. But he published a DM's Guide to Running Dragon by Icespire Peak. I'm pretty sure it's like $2. But in it has some advice on running the campaign as is, but at the back of it, it has random encounter tables for Neverwinter Wood, the Tribor Trail, the Sword Mountains. So some of the stuff you encountered was actually from this. Like, let's see. If you remember, while you're in the forest, you noticed like a Thayan dread ring, and you found some like random like undead warrior at it. Like that was from this.
yeah.
It's just like a little bit of like extra flavor. It's not part of the main adventure, but it's like, oh yeah, other people are doing like other shady shit here. When I was looking for how to tie Elle's backstory to the campaign, I actually took one of the encounters here, which is that like there is a half orc assassin riding a giant bat tracking the party. That was from that encounter table. So
Sweet.
that is what I used. Shout out one more
Okay.
time to Lucas Cockerham's A DM's Guide to Running Dragon of Icespire Peak. Communication Fit
Gee, Luke.
7752. What was the hardest encounter in the game? I'm gonna let you all answer, and then I'm gonna answer my version. What for you all was it? I mean, was it the siege, or I guess the siege was multiple encounters. Was there a single encounter that you'd say was like the most dangerous or the most deadly?
The boar.
Did-
I mean, I still think like the siege for me is the number one thing, but that
Mhm.
fucking boar before we
Yeah.
knew it was an ankleite or
Getting hit with that
was-
boar at level 1. Was...
You weren't
Yeah.
level 1. You weren't level 1. You were at, like, we can check on the map. You went to the forest after you did. You were at least level 3 because you did the Umbridge Hill, Nomengard, and Dwarven Excavation before you went up to the Loggers Camp. But you're right that even like getting hit by that at level 3 was
challenging.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Say the least.
that was a lot.
Yeah.
Day 3 of the siege was probably the worst for me just because we all had that exhaustion point. None of
Yeah.
us had gotten
Mhm.
our spells back. None of us had gotten our
Yeah.
HP back. We were low on stuff, and it was just
Running on fumes.
you were working with crumbs and fumes in terms
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
resources, in terms of energy, in terms of what you could do for your teammates. Because at one point I remember like at one point I was gophering between two walls trying to help people out, and at one point I'm like, I have to choose one.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
help the other one, and that was like, okay, logistically what can I do, but also character wise who would I go to? Like you had to think a lot during that encounter as a whole, but day 3 just working with all those variables against you was rough.
Yeah.
I think
And-
that's the only time my morale was actually like down in the game.
A really interesting part of when you did have to make that choice was you, if I remember correctly, it was between coming out to where I was with Nox,
Yeah,
facing
you were on the bridge, I think.
yeah, and then there,
Yeah.
they
going
got through
towards
one of the
Carson and
doors.
Ajax.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was this very like narrative moment where if I'd let myself role play it a little bit more, I think it would have been more fun. But it was one of those moments where it almost felt like this epic battle
Mhm.
where like a battle scene, very like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, where
Yeah.
Chrysalin could very well turn the tide of what's happening. And it entirely hinges on the choice that she's making. And it felt very so much like she turned towards me and I turned towards her. And there was this like understanding of, I'm not your friend. Go save your friends. And she turned and did that, and it was like a I don't want you to die, but if you did,
Yeah.
okay.
She had a choice.
it was-
I'm
Yeah.
gonna go
was-
save the people I
was-
want to save.
It was right. It was that narrative part, but I was also like, she's the only one. There was also logistics I was thinking too, because it's like she's the only one holding this bridge right now.
And she's got the necklace of
But
fireballs.
I
Yeah.
have my right, but like at the same time, like my two beefy boys are no longer beefy.
Yeah.
What do I do? Kind of thing. So yeah, it was a rough. I think I took a decent chunk of time trying to figure that out, and it was stressful because I'm like,
Yeah.
this is hard.
Yeah.
And like I've said, that is something I kind of added to the adventure. If we're going by the book as written, I do have an answer to this. Umbridge Hill, the first adventure you went on, so you had your option to pick, right? Nomengard, Umbridge Hill, or Dwarven Excavation. You picked Umbridge Hill because it was the closest. It is also where you, as a group of level 1s, fought a manticore.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Which
I
is a-
remember. I
it's
kind of
a-
remember.
Where
It's
we
a
met
s-
Deborah.
It's a CR3 creature with ranged attacks and multi-attack. And I think we lucked out on the rolls, but I think if you compared like your level to the threat level of the monster, that was the most dangerous encounter. That could have gone really, really badly. But you I think played it smart and got a little lucky with the dice that day, and it didn't it didn't go that bad. Burl
I was
read
so happy I had sneak attack that day.
yeah.
Yeah. That extra damage is clutch in a fight like that.
Burl Red asks, what's loot distribution look like? Are classes pretty well covered, or is it like Lost Mine of Phandelver, where some classes get a lot of useful loot and others get none? I think this is more a question for you all. How did you feel on the like getting magical treasures side of things?
I think we just split it, like we split all the money evenly. There was never any point where we were like, oh, someone should get more money than somebody else.
Right.
Like when Maina died, I think everybody split her stuff right down the lines. The only part that like really seemed to be like the only thing of value that she really had on her was the dagger. And I think that there was like a maybe a moment between Elle and Brina where they were like, who should get that? But
Yeah, sorry,
think-
Brina, I was gonna take that dagger regardless.
No,
I
I
would've
was actually
stolen
about
it
to
in the
say
middle of the
we
night.
had.
Yeah.
No, I
you
was about to
would've-
say like my whole rationale for that was like you would have made better use for it. We came in, we
Yeah.
fell into a really good system of looking at what we got in an encounter and being like, who is going to utilize? We were really good with utility in this campaign. We were given stuff, and instead of fighting over it, instead of somebody being like, I really want that just because it looks cool, we were just like, who will this best serve? And then who will best serve the party with this thing? And other people would be like, that looks really cool, but I think person over there should get it. Person over there would do this really good. Another person would be like, oh, are you sure? And like, no, take the thing. And we ended up like switching things, I think, a few times throughout the game. But no, we were really good about being like, you get this, you get this, you get this, split money.
And I think it was
very cut and dry.
a pretty good distribution of stuff. Like I think both Carson and Bax got magical weapons. Helena got several magic items that helped her be more stealthy. Chrysalin, I think you got a bard specific item, right?
I got a couple. Mine were later game, but I think that was part of the thing. Like the better utility stuff happens like earlier in the campaign, and then you get more of your like pretty vanity stuff later. So like the distribution is even. It's just when do you get the thing?
Yeah. I will note
Is how I looked at it.
I guess if in terms of comparing it to the way it's written to how I ran it, I don't think I added many magical items except for the end. When you defeat Cryovane, there's really not a lot of treasure there, and that felt kind of lame for killing a dragon. So I added some gold, and then I added a specific item for each of you that would be helpful in the next part of the adventure to include there. Let's see. Where were we? Odd Cravania asks, what's the presence of factions like in this? They're honestly not very present. There's a single person in town who is a member of the Zentarum, but that doesn't really come up in the adventure. I don't know if Lost Minds of Phandelver use the like official factions more, but this game doesn't. This book doesn't really use them very much. Grack99, did you use Neverwinter in any of your games? No, but I think that's how I'm going to start the next campaign, is a trip to the big city.
Wasn't the Drake was from Neverwinter, so we had like a very indirect run-in.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's really it.
Yeah. Evan Drummer asks, other than adding or removing monsters, did you run all or most encounters by the book and follow the suggested plot? Or did you change locations and motives, PCs? The answer is probably different. Yeah, so it was, I'd say, I ran it very close to the book. I don't think there isn't really a plot in the book. It's literally just dragons attacking and causing problems, go kill it. I added details to stuff, like I added some goblins in Axholme. I added an elf and orc lover vampire werewolf thing in the Woodland Manse. I added stuff like that, but I kept the general structure the same, and I think it functions well under that general structure. Razorhoof asks, I'm running it right now and my party seems a little overpowered, especially since I rolled them a dragon encounter last game and they almost killed it before it flew off, and I was using the adolescent dragon stats that Bob World Builder suggests. I don't know what that is. I'm worried that the final encounter is going to be a total dud. If it's over in like 2 rounds, have you experienced the same thing? I'm actually thinking about maybe making the dragon and a mate using the young dragon stats. When they actually get to the fight in Icespire Hold, do you think 2 dragons is too difficult? No. Throw 2 dragons at him. Like Anna said earlier, if you're going to keep it young dragons, throw 2 at them. Throw kobolds at them. Get that action economy up. If you want it to be 1 dragon, I think at level 7 they can handle an adult white dragon, no problem.
Yeah, I think out of all of the combat encounters that we had, the especially because like the stakes always felt really high. The end kegs, the stakes felt high because we didn't know when they were going to come back, so we had to make sure that we got them this time, because I think that was another one where our long rest got interrupted, so we didn't recover nearly as much as we needed to. Obviously with the siege, that's really high high tension, high stakes. The Woodland Manse, all of us, upon realizing that this lady had bricked herself into her fireplace.
Yeah.
With her magically sleeping werewolf orc boyfriend. Upon finding out that like that was what in the world? And 2, not only are we facing down a sorcerer that's hundreds of years older than we are and very powerful, but we're also facing her crazed vampire or werewolf boyfriend. And so that was also really high stakes, which ended up being even higher stakes because one of us got. But it felt, I don't know, like I feel like climbing up to the castle was more high stakes than the actual battle itself.
Yeah, the kobolds, when they're able to like rain fire on you while you're climbing up, was pretty. Yeah,
that was way worse.
I would say if they almost killed the dragon on the first encounter, they are in fact overpowered, because we actually, if I remember correctly, we did struggle with the first encounter with Cryobane, didn't he? He like ambushed us in the woods or something like that.
Yes, but it also depends on when. It depends on when they met him, because you all met him at like level 3 or 4. If their first encounter with him was like level 5 or 6, you know. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, but yeah, that encounter sucked. But I did think about that. I'm like, what if we get him now? Then what? That was a stupid thought, but
I mean, that I wouldn't fudge the dice to prevent that from happening. If that did happen, then I think I'd just like skip ahead to something else, or now that Cryobane's done, now you can go around unimpeded fixing these problems kind of thing.
Oops, you accidentally completed the quest. What's next?
Yeah. Let's see, where were
Roll
we?
credits.
We're almost done. Mr. Squiddy123, did you ever add story to the Cult of Talos? How did you edit the combat encounters? I think we already talked about that part. How did you give out most of the quests? I stuck very close to the book. Literally, just the town master has quests. There's a quest board. The party can pick them up. That's pretty simple. I didn't really add any additional story to the Cult of Talos other than just making sure that you were aware that there are like these guys are dicks and not all orc. I didn't want to make it a situation where like all orcs in this world are inherently evil. I never really find that sort of storytelling interesting. Crazy MFer asks,
we made good orcs.
That's well, I made sure I like added those in. Yeah. Did you use any homebrew adventures within Dragon of Icespire Peak or remix any of the adventure as written? No, I ran it pretty much as is.
Lycanthropy. The lycanthropy rules were.
Oh, that's true. That I
not
use my own version of lycanthropy because if you run lycanthropy the way the Dungeon Master's Guide tells you, it's essentially a character death. They're bitten, they become an NPC that the Dungeon Master controls, and need a new character. And I didn't want to do that to Henderson twice.
Yeah, do it again.
Iowa Golf Guy 322 asks, how did he handle traveling? I have a group that gets caught in a lot of battles due to not being very careful, and so traveling seemed like a tough piece to include when we're rolling initiative so often. I don't know. What did you all think about traveling in the campaign? Pretty straightforward. We
always rolled really high on survival.
Yeah, that helped.
Yeah. It was very easy. It was
that, and anytime we had to like stop anywhere that wasn't like safe, we made sure to like have at least one party member keeping watch, so it was never like we got surprised by anything if there was anything that did come and attack us while we were traveling. Like I don't like traveling was not largely an issue for us. Like it either went fine or we were prepared for it.
I tried to use traveling as an opportunity for skill checks and then as a time constraint rather than like just throwing mobs and mobs of enemies at you. So when you were traveling, if you were trying to get to a place, it was hopefully with a sense of urgency. And then I'd also sprinkle a couple interesting things that you could encounter along the way. So it wasn't just like, I don't like in a D&D game when someone's like, the DM's like, okay, you're going to travel and we're going to act out the time. And then over the period of time that you're traveling, nothing happens. At that point, just say, hey, you left this city. Hey, you arrived at this city. Like if that's not important, save the time. Don't make it a focus of things.
And I mean, I do think that it helps that we have characters with pretty high passive perception and investigation as well, which...
Oh, yours was stupid.
Your
Yours was stupid.
Your
high.
character had high passive
some
perception.
characters.
Your character, mine was pretty good.
Yeah.
I liked that you had
Observant
I
is
liked
my
that you
favorite
had
feat for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Observant.
I like that you had a encounter roll situation, so that kind of made it feel more realistic. Like, hey, some days you're gonna encounter something. Sometimes that'll be violent. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes you're just gonna have a good day.
Yeah,
And
you might meet a dog.
That
You
kind
might
of
meet
helps
a
keep. That kind of helps keep. It keeps it spicy. That way, it's like, oh, another travel thing. You know, kind of. Because I've witnessed campaigns where people are like, and now you're traveling, and it's like, okay. Can we? Anything else? I'll take a monologue at this point. Like I'm over this.
I think
but, like if you keep it,
I think, and I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second and yell at the kids these days. I think that modern dungeon masters who have been inspired by shows like Critical Role, which they do a fantastic job. It's very entertaining, but because everything is so carefully like planned, and Matt Mercer has a Giga Chad brain that he can hold this world in his mind, that like they are afraid to use random encounter tables because it's not a bespoke experience for their players. But if you are if you learn to love the random encounter table and then you use it to build things, then it feels bespoke. A random, I roll on a table, oh shit, there's an orc assassin coming in to attack the party. Why would he do that? Well, Helena pissed off this noble that's trapped in the jail in Icewind Dale, and you use it to like build things. My point is, don't be afraid of random encounter tables. Just don't like make a table where it's like, okay, if I roll a 1, there's 4 goblins. If I roll a 2, there's 5 goblins. That's not interesting. Polite as hell asks. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, also a fun little bit is the fact that Cameron plays a lot of stuff close to his chest as well, and so we'd be like trading shifts, and then like a 3 would pop up into the roll history, and we'd be like, Cameron.
What are you doing?
Hello?
Oh my god, that was the worst. Or he'd accidentally click an enemy tray when he wasn't supposed to yet, and we get a peek at it, and he's like, oh, you're not supposed to see that yet. It's like, what the heck?
Ignore that.
You can't take that back. We've seen it. We know it's there now.
I did
Especially with all the orcs, the Anchorites of Talos, they just suddenly popped up with a roll, and I'm just like, stop.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
I think that's maybe like a fun little thing that he did for his own experience, because all of us are all like, I feel like the 5 of us are pretty eagle-eyed as well. So like things that he might normally be able to get away with, and with other people, all of us were like, no, what was that? What do you mean?
Yeah, it wasn't this campaign, but it's
and then he'd mute.
Yeah, in my Misty Fortunes and Absent Hearts campaign, it takes place in Barovia. There's a village, and at one point I accidentally rolled there's a vampire spawn, and it wasn't in where they were, but I rolled a perception check, and the players saw it, and they were like, oh, there's a vampire in this fucking house. And they spent like the rest of the session tearing the house apart, and I was like, no, you don't understand. That was genuinely an accident. But yeah, Polite as hell asks why. Fair. I think Hannah explained it at the beginning. We kind of wanted to run something outside our normal group of friends. I saw the opportunity to bring in some players that hadn't had a chance before, and I don't know. I think I really like running D&D for new players. Not that like I'll still run it for you guys, even though you all have played now. But I think there's a genuine joy and innocence when someone's like figuring things out for the first time, and you see like the magic as they click and the world becomes real. That's a lot of fun. Joe Ross asks, lessons learned. I feel like that's what this whole thing has been about. I don't know that I've got anything else to add. Does anyone have anything else you want to add to comments?
I do have one.
Yeah.
My lesson is that I'm not allowed to write death scenes anymore because I wrote it. I just like this tiny little like 2-page, like what was going on in Mina's head as she was dying. Like, what was she thinking? What was she experiencing? What was going on? Because I love narratives. I love crap like that. I think it's so much fun. Like, most of the reason why I got into D&D is because I was tired of like the characters in my head doing what I wanted them to. And I wanted other characters that weren't being controlled by me. To kind of stretch the creative part of my brain of like, okay, how do I react to something that's truly unexpected? Mm-hmm. And so I just wrote that because it was a fun little thing. And I felt like I didn't really do enough in the campaign because I was pissed. I was so mad that my character was dead, that I just could not come up with anything like fun for her to be doing. And really the only thing that cut through the haze in my brain was she's the very last of her energies. She's going to take out her dagger and she's just going to chuck it. She's going to try and wedge it in a wall somewhere so that people know what happened to her. And then afterwards I went back and I wrote this little thing and I sent it. And then maybe like 2 hours later, I got you're not allowed to do that. I'm crying. Stop it. Yeah. From pretty much everybody. I was like, Captain, I will not write any more narratives.
I will.
I mean,
Don't,
always
but,
write
like,
more
please do.
narratives because it was stunning.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was really
always
good.
write more, but that
Oh
was
yeah, no,
that
it was
was
good.
heartbreaking.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
but
yeah.
do, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The what?
Don't but
Don't
do.
do it,
What'd you
but
say,
do
Anna?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
don't
but do.
don't but do it.
Yeah.
Like, we suffered emotional damage reading that, but it was a nice.
It
I
was
think
so
it was
good.
it was well written. Like, your writing skills are obviously very
Yeah.
good, but also it fit well with like Mayna's character. Like, you wrote out all of these thoughts that like in session she wouldn't have had a chance to express, and we got like a little peek into
Mhm.
like her thoughts,
Mhm.
which I
Some
like just
closure.
out of character.
I think
Mm.
the part of it that got me while I was writing it was when she's moved past the first 4 stages of grief and she's now in acceptance, and she's describing all of her friends. Where she says something like Chrysalin, the one that is like the sunshine of the group. Diana with all her secrets, but so quick to create her own with you, and like Carson, the friend she never got to thank for being there. Those, I think that was the one where I was like, Mayna, shut the fuck up, come on. But
And her heart grew 3 sizes that day.
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe she wasn't. I feel like Mina's not nearly as much of a Grinch as Rosalia is. Rosalia's like staunchly like, I don't want to talk to you, go away.
Mhm.
It will be
I
interesting.
think mine.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think mine was more of like a personal like lesson learning thing, because like I said earlier, like I wanted Chrysalin to have all these like desirable traits, and then I realized like halfway through the game I'm like, oh, this is what I wish I could be like, kind of thing. But inevitably, as you're playing a character, yourself is going to leak through in, you know, the brain work, the impulse decisions you make in battle, or like the ideas you have for this and that and the other. So it's like you inevitably learn a lot about yourself through this last minute little character you threw into this last minute little group you joined into, and that was fun. That was fun.
I think I also one of the I wouldn't call it a lesson as such, but this is my first time playing with all ladies, and that was a pretty cool thing. I have to say, it was really fucking cool. I mean,
Oh,
I've
yeah.
never felt unsafe or had a terrible experience at the table.
No.
Never. We're really fucking lucky, thank God. But it was very, very fun to play with only ladies and have all 5 ladies bully camp.
I think I've said this
constantly.
Yeah.
before, but my sexist take is that I do think women are better at TTRPGs than men.
What?
I think you.
Cameron, can you say that into my good ear? I didn't hear you.
I'm being genuine. I think like playing like look at like, okay, let's not name names, but like playing with like Nate and Tom and Danny, like those idiots, like they so disorganized. They like, it's always a beer and pretzels type game. But Danny's the exception. I shouldn't name him. He's a delight to play with. But this was a very smooth and refreshing experience versus the fucking cat wrangling I have to do sometimes. So I do thank you for making it so easy to run the game.
This game made me not want to. It made me want to stop playing
in other games.
Waterdeep.
Yeah.
And it's not anything against
wow.
you, Cameron, at all. It's not anything against you. I just, like you said, like this was so much fun. Fuck,
Yeah.
we met more often.
That's a big part of it.
Like it was just good.
Yeah, I think we got really lucky with our table chemistry, because like this campaign was open to the rest of the Discord, and it just so happened that like the 5 of us had signed up like by chance, and I mean, I didn't really know any of you guys coming into this. You guys like knew each other, but I feel like we got lucky. Like just out of character, I think we have a lot of good chemistry with each other, which makes getting into character and playing in this world with each other that much more fun because as much as we can like have our serious moments, we also know when it's like a good time to like enjoy some random bullshit.
Yeah, playing
I
a
think it's
character
also very
want to help you was hard.
yeah. I think also it's very important that all five of us know that we get frustrated with one another, and we can get frustrated when we're playing, but it's water under the bridge. No
Right.
worries. It's just
Yeah.
for fun and for the game of it.
We had a lot
There's
of
definitely-
break chemistry too. Like we
Yeah.
took that time to like really like sit down. Like we had debates with each other. We had discussions with each other. We had check-ins with each other. I know
Yep.
there was a couple. I'm not gonna name names. There were players who were having really rough fucking patches on certain days. We were playing like, hey guys, this is just where I'm at mentally, and everybody was like, no, what's wrong? We'll
Yeah.
pause. We
Yeah.
won't start for a good 20 minutes. Like
Right.
talk. Like what's going on? So like we like there was team building.
Yeah.
Like we're a team now. We built a team.
And there was also moments where someone would start off fine and then noticeably would be quieter or maybe more reserved or spent more time muted. Because we typically didn't play. I think the only time any of us ever turned our cameras on was the finale.
Yeah.
Both parts of the finale.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
that
think
was like
the first episode in the finale. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my first time ever seeing Brina or Elle or Anna. But like weirdly that wasn't an issue because I think that there was, I'll name names, it was me. I spent at one point, like I was muted almost the entire time, and separately pretty much everyone was like reached out and was like, are you good? Is something going on? Like after the session, and I was
Yeah.
I
like,
think there was a day Anna was. I think there was a day Anna was either really late or something was happening. And I messaged her apart like, hey friend,
Yeah.
how you doing? Where you're quiet today. We haven't heard from you. And it was like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, no, I'm fine. Just this is happening. It's like okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had a lot of personal shit go down during this year that we've played together, and it's
yeah, dude.
it's been a lot, but also it's been really good to just have this group and just be able to talk about everything.
Yeah,
It's also kind of
absolutely.
nice because there's very little context outside of when we see each other of what's going on in each other's lives. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
anybody does for work.
Yeah, I hear Cameron and Hannah talk about their job all the time. I'm like,
Well-
I still don't know what they do.
But I think it's just one of those like interesting dynamics of like, I don't know what you do for work. I don't know who's important in your life. I don't know where you live. Do you have pets? I don't know. But also, I would, without hesitation, fly across my country or potentially to another country. If someone was being shisty, I'd be like, how much is a plane ticket? I've got credit cards.
It's expensive, but you're welcome.
I remember.
Anytime you guys
I'm
want to
doing
come
this
to
certain
Norway.
anyway. Who cares?
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it one of the? It was one of our sessions last year because I remember Cameron and I were on. We were on vacation, and we did a session, and like our first maybe 30 or 40 minutes ended up really just of us ignoring Cameron and the game, and I think discussing who our cast, like our dream cast would be, and why
Oh,
we would
yeah.
cast them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Cameron was just like, well,
remember that.
you know, this
Did
is
we
my,
start?
this is my
Nope.
life
Nope.
now. That's fine. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was,
Oh,
that was a
last
lot of
session.
fun.
It was very-
Nope.
Yeah.
Cameron's a very indulgent DM.
I think
Yeah.
you gotta be like you all have said. We got lucky with the chemistry, but it's also I think everyone being a decent person and then working to maintain that chemistry. You got to have the balance between playtime and then social time, because at the end of the day, this is a very very social activity.
Yeah. But I also think
Yeah.
you're,
And you
you're
were-
indulgent with for the right group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because you don't put up
Yeah,
with that
because you
shit.
knew
Yeah.
you knew when
or
to put the
Waterdeep.
brakes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've definitely
Yes.
kept us on.
You-
You're like,
you let
okay,
us- Yep. Time to go now.
yeah. You're like,
Let's
speaking
so
of
we're
Louis
back
Vuitton
at this
bags.
situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Speaking.
Let's make it.
Let's play some D&D, which is why we're here, and not just for social time. Come on, ladies. Come on.
Speaking of time to go, I do think this is just about the end. We got through all the questions. I guess, did anyone have anything else, any last thoughts or anything before we call this an interview?
I did remember one funny / embarrassing story for me, but this was in our earlier session of when we first started playing. I think I had been in a show or I had been out late or something, and I moved. My laptop was still alive, and I moved over to the bed, and I fell asleep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
Conveniently,
I'm
I was
so
able to
sorry,
like
we're
check
like,
on
oh, no.
you.
Don't
Yeah.
worry.
It was my
Oh,
turn.
take it out.
And it was my turn, and Cameron was like, Hannah. And he's just, hold on.
We heard him.
It's in the
That was-
The best part was
bedroom,
we heard him walk into the room.
Yeah.
Say something.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
good
was one of my
times.
favorite parts about gathering for session beforehand is somebody would hit group chat and be like, hey guys, can we either postpone this a couple hours or another day? I'm hungover. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? Same, sis. Let's just not do it today.
Yeah.
The best part is that continued up until today.
Yeah.
I
pretty much.
asked today
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
postpone
Yeah.
an hour.
Oh.
But I wasn't hungover.
Yeah.
I
And-
just had family in town.
And to be fair, you did indulge me
No,
when
I
we
just
first
got
started
hungover
out.
part.
We played for I think about like 8 months, where we were doing like 9 a.m.s, and I recognize that is early for everyone else.
We're not going to talk about how many sessions I was late to or just straight up
don't know what
slept
you mean.
through.
Yeah.
Not a
It worked out just fine for Elle. All right. Well, I think this was super enlightening. I appreciate all the feedback. I appreciate all the discussion, and maybe we'll do another one of these at the end of the second part of this campaign in a year or so. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Thanks everybody who submitted questions. Thanks everybody who watched or listened to this, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.